Welcome to the first official Hard Hit Sports Selection show. We'll kick things off today with the Mid Penn Keystone division. Our first game is Chambersburg and Cedar Cliff. Chambersburg coming in at 0-6 after a loss to Harrisburg last week. Cedar Cliff coming in after a win at 3-3. I think Cedar Cliff picks up another win this week, and Chambersburg falls down to 0-7. Cedar Cliff moves up to 4-3. Then we move on to Redland and Hershey. Both teams are having definitely the opposite of an ideal season for them. Redland coming in at 0-6, Hershey coming in at 1-4. I think Redland decides that this is the week to step it up, and they pick up their first win. Redland moves on to 1-6, Hershey falls to 1-5. And then we move on to Bishop McDevitt and Mechanicsburg. McDevitt coming in at 4-2, Mechanicsburg coming in at 2-4. I think Bishop McDevitt, behind quarterback Chase Deal and wide receiver Tanias Becker, move on for another week and pick up another win, moving on to 5-2 on the year. And I think Mechanicsburg falls down to 2-5. And then we move on to our first hard hit sports game of the week. We have visitor Lower Dauphin traveling to Roscoe Warner Field to take on the Susquehanna Township Indians. Both teams come into this game at 3-3. I think Susquehanna Township comes to play this week. I think after their loss to Carlisle last week, quarterback Rashawn Carlton, wide receivers Brian Garner and Roland Norfleet team up with Kevin Littles, and they make a definite game for their homecoming game, and they come out with a win, moving on to 4-3. I think Lower Dauphin drops their first conference loss, then drops them down to 3-4. Then we'll move on to the Mid Penn Capital Division. And the first game for that division will be Trinity heading to East Penn to take on the Panthers. Both of these teams coming in with very similar records. East Penn coming in at 4-2, Trinity coming in at 3-3 after dropping a heartbreaker last week to the Steel and Highspire Rollers. I think East Penn comes in and rallies around running back Onassis Neely to pick up another win. I think East Penn moves on to 5-2, and I think Trinity falls to 3-4 on the year. And then we have Milton Hershey and Boiling Springs. Once again, neither team is having an ideal season. Milton Hershey coming in at 2-4, Boiling Springs coming in at 1-6. I think Milton Hershey falls again this week and drops another one. I think Boiling Springs moves on to 2-6. Milton Hershey drops to 2-5. And for the last Mid Penn Capital Division game, we have Palmyra and Steelton Highspire. Both teams coming in with 5-1 records. Steel High rolling on all cylinders after coming back to beat Trinity last week. I think the Rollers and Dupree Andrews come out and give Palmyra everything they can handle and move on for another win. I think Steel High moves on to 6-1 on the year. Palmyra falls to 5-2. Next up, we have the Mid Penn Colonial. First off, we have Greencastle Antrim taking on Ship. I think Shippensburg comes out with their 4-2 record and walks all over Greencastle, moving on to 5-2 on the year. Then we have Waynesboro taking on Big Springs. Both teams coming in with very similar records. Waynesboro coming in at 4-2, Big Springs coming in at 4-3. I think Big Springs takes this one in an all-out brawl. I think it's a really good game, and I think Big Springs moves on to 5-3 on the year, dropping Waynesboro down to 4-3. Then we have James Buchanan and West Perry. James Buchanan coming in with a 1-5 record, West Perry coming in at 2-4. I don't think James Buchanan gets it going this week, and I think West Perry takes another win, moving on to 3-4 for the year, dropping James Buchanan down to 1-6. And finally, for the Colonial Division, we have Mifflin County taking on Northern York. Mifflin County coming in at 0-6, Northern York coming in at 2-4. Mifflin County does not get it going this week, in my opinion. I think Northern York moves on for another win to 3-4, dropping Mifflin County down to 0-7. And then we have the Mid Penn Commonwealth Division. And we'll start off with our game of the week on Saturday. We'll start out with Harrisburg and Central Dauphin. Harrisburg comes in at 6-0, led by running back Micah Parsons and quarterback Yamir Wilkerson. They are coming off the heels of a game where they took everything to Chambersburg and won 82-3. Central Dauphin comes in after a loss to CD East. I think it turns into a very good game, but I think CD drops this one to Harrisburg, and Harrisburg moves on to 7-0. CD unfortunately falls to 4-3. I think it turns out to be a drawn-out game, and I think they all battle it out to the end, but I don't think CD has quite enough to finish it out. And now for the rest of our Commonwealth division, we have Central Dauphin East and State College, both teams coming in at 5-1. CD East coming off the heels of a very big win against Central Dauphin last week. State College, always a good team. However, I think CD East takes this one, moving on to 6-1 on the year, dropping State College down to 5-2. And last but not least, we have Cumberland Valley and Carlisle. Cumberland Valley, led by Charlie Cashier, comes in at 5-1. Carlisle at 4-2 after knocking off the Tribe last week. I think Cumberland Valley definitely takes this one, though. They continue to roll on as they have been, and I think they end up at 6-1 at the end of the week, dropping Carlisle down to 4-3. And that'll bring up the end of our selections for the week. Once again, we will be at Susquehanna Township Friday night, 7 p.m. kickoff. Susquehanna Township taking on Lower Dauphin at Roscoe Warner Field. Saturday, we will be over at Landis Field to check out Central Dauphin and Harrisburg, 12:30 p.m. kickoff. Hope to see you there, and have a nice day. See you next week.